Good morning and welcome to the Bowling University studios from the International Bowling Campus in Arlington, Texas. I'm Kelly Bednar and I'll be your host for this edition of the Bowling University Tuesday Morning Profit Break. Thank you for joining us. The Tuesday Morning Profit Break is an opportunity for sharing insights on how to grow your revenue, reduce costs, and enrich yourself, your team, and your business. Welcome to our new viewers and welcome back to those of you joining us again. Thank you for taking a few minutes out of your busy day. Grab your cup of coffee or your favorite morning beverage, and let's get started improving your profitability. Today, we welcome back to the show one of our very own team members here at the campus, John Karabatsos. This morning, John is going to spend a few minutes talking about key game room metrics that you should be reviewing on a regular basis to help you run your game room more profitable. John, thank you so much for taking the time and talking to our people.
My pleasure. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. So as Kelly mentioned, we're going to talk about game rooms this morning. And the question that often comes up is what should we be looking for and how often should we do it? Game rooms are so profitable and there's so many moving parts to it. And then we get so wrapped up in the day-to-day, sometimes things fall through the cracks. So what I want to go through is just a few of the high points of what you need to be aware of. As that leader, you do not have time to look into all of these things, but you should be aware of some of the key points that could send up a flag that you can then drill down into. So one of the first things is, again, how often should we look at this stuff? So a lot of it depends on who you are. What kind of revenue do you do? How complex of a model is it? What's your staffing look like? And then what are the current needs and where do you want to be? So that plays a big role in it. And then the information and the frequency that you're going to review it is all dependent upon those. Some things are going to be every day, some things are going to be every week, every month, quarterly, and so on. If you're short-staffed, you may not be able to do it as frequently as you want to. But as it says on there, what you see is going to depend on what you look for. So I want to show you some things that you should be looking for in your game room. One of the first things, if you have a card system, they're incredibly powerful, and there is so much data in there. So with this, today I'm going to give you some just some metrics to look at. I'm sure your card systems have this information, but the reports are called something different with each one. So talk to your vendor. If you're not sure, see where you can find this stuff. It's in there. Those systems are powerful. But one thing I would recommend is have those reports pushed to you as much as possible, because you really don't have the time, and you may forget, as the days happen, in going in and looking up all the information on a day-to-day basis. Have them pushed to you or to whoever it is that you're going to look for it. Okay, so let's look. One of the most important things you're going to look for is the game revenue performance. How are the games doing? It's one of the things you want to look at. I would look at them weekly, okay? And what you're looking for when you're doing that is you want to look and see how they're ranking, what their revenue is coming in. I like to add the gross margin in there too. It may or may not be in your card system, but you can export the reports to an Excel file, manipulate them the way you want, and then see. But one of the things I like to put in is how much money is it making, because ultimately that's what it's about. Okay, so you want to look at that by game. And you want to look at the whole game room. Okay, in this example, this is just a week's revenue of the top 10 games, and you can see how they're laid out. These are great games, but what's happening to that Wheel of Fortune? Why is it number 9 in revenue, but number 14 in my gross margin rank? Something I'd probably want to look at and see what it is. It may be right, and if that's okay, that's fine. But any of the flags could mean you're going to have different issues, like maintenance. Maybe the game was down. Maybe it's not paying out the proper way to do it. You might have had a demographic change. Maybe you had a lot of kids coming in one week, small kids, and then maybe you had somebody come in that was really good, and they're going to beat it. So, and the other part of it is you might have some bad data in there, and you might have reader settings that are wrong. Sometimes when you remove a reader to repair it and replace it, then you bring it back in, oftentimes you forget, it can be forgotten to change the settings so it's pointing to the right game. So make sure that the data that you're getting out of it is accurate. Okay, so then you want to look at it, and you look at it weekly. I mean, you could look at it every day if you wanted to, but that's a lot. Weekly at least. Then you want to look at a rolling period. One of the game card systems I'm familiar with does it on a rolling 6 weeks. Okay, so look at that and see how the games are doing from week to week. And I highlighted a couple on here, so you can see down the clown. Why did it go down to number 9? The revenue is fairly consistent. throughout the 6 weeks, okay? But it's impacted by the other games. So look at Wheel of Fortune. Look at what it did that week. You see it did well, and the other one, and Down the Clown dropped down. Well, it did well, but look at all the other weeks. So there obviously was an issue with that. Maybe, or maybe that you just had a group in there that week that loved Wheel of Fortune. Something worth digging into a little bit more. And then you want to look beyond just the top games. If you look down here at SpongeBob, you can see it had a great week, and it had all these other weeks that are not so great. So what's going on with SpongeBob? Okay, you're losing money there somehow. Every game impacts another game. So this is going to give you some flags to see where should I spend more time looking. And you can check with your maintenance staff. Hey, what kind of issues are we having with this? What have you done with it? Where is it at? Because clearly, in the case of SpongeBob, that's something wrong with that one. Okay. Another thing you want to look at is the redemption payout percentage. Look at it every week. Look at it every month. You can look on a rolling period. Okay. And what you want to look at on that is what's the actual payout percentage is, and how does that compare to a payout range? You'll have to make sure in your card system you're going to put a range. Every type of game has a different range that it goes through. Okay. Usually the higher play value versus the lower play value is going to determine what that percentage is. Something like a DC comic where it's quick, okay, it has a higher payout range, but it makes a lot of money. And you can see in this point where the estimated or suggested range is 30 to 35%. This one came in at 10%. Now, while that may look great on your bottom line, you're saying, oh, I'm only paying out 10%, it does not enhance the play experience. Remember, people have to win if they're going to continue to play your games. So what caused that is what you have to figure out, okay? Is it your point value setting? If you've gone in and you set a half a penny a point, but then you didn't up your payouts, you're going to get something like this. So you've got to look and see, why is it paying that out? This is going to hurt your long-term pay more than likely, okay? What are your game settings at? Are they set properly for paying out? And then again, that demographic change. Who's been in there? Look at it every week. I wouldn't overreact for 1 week. Certainly that monthly or the rolling one is time you want to start making your tweaks, okay? And then you're looking at the total payout for the game room, and you can see in this example, they're paying out less than 12%. That's really low. You want people to win. You want them to win. If they're going to win, they're going to keep playing. Okay? Typically around 20-22% is where you see a lot of game rooms. The cranes and the merchandisers are another one that you have to look at. I will look at them weekly at the very minimum. Okay? Same deal. You're going to look at the revenues. You want to look at the cost of goods, hit frequency, and then weekly or monthly, and then you're going to do inventories on these. And what all that means is, hey, I'm a proponent of counting those things. There's no reason why you can't go into a crane once a week and count what's in there. You got to go in and clean it anyway. Clean it, fluff it, reset it, make it look good. Go in and count it. So you're doing an actual inventory, because the card systems are not 100% accurate with the prize payout on that just yet. So what'd you start with? What did you add? What did you end with? That's how many winners that you had. And then from there, you can do the rest of the math, the total cost. So I am a big fan of doing that every week. Now, I wouldn't react to 1 week because, again, you may have had a different group in there. So you look at that 1 week as just a point in time. Don't overreact to a week. Hit ratio is important. Always remember 2 things. When you're looking at the financial side, you're looking at cost of goods. Okay, but the other part of the equation is happy guests. And what makes them happy is when they win. So that's what that hit frequency measures, is how many people are winning prizes. You need to be aware of that. You need to have goals for that. And if it's wrong, you need to fix it. You need to put it so people that win. Winners make players. Don't forget that. All right, the next thing, the cranes and merchandisers, on the rollings, the same as the 1 week. And here's an 8-week period. And you can see at the end of the 8-week period is 18.5%. Right about where we wanted this crane to be. And then the hit ratio is 18. But look at all the different changes from week to week. Part of it could just be, accounting. They didn't count it right. Again, demographics, different people that are in there. So moral of the story is, don't panic for 1 week. Look at the trends. Look at the revenues. Look at what your costs are. Look at that hit frequency. Keep all those things in mind, and keep those 2 things separate: cost of goods and hit frequency. Okay, one's a financial measure. One is how happy your guests are. Okay, employee play from your card system you're going to get this. This is important to look at. You want to look at it comparatively speaking. So in this case, this location was less than 0.5% of the games were employee play. But these two at the top, both around 6%, they stand out. So why is that? So that could be an indication of a maintenance problem. So your staff, your technicians constantly in there trying to do something. What is the issue? You need to find out what that is. Maybe there was a lost card, okay, a lost employee card where somebody went in there and was playing it for free. And then you might have an employee that their friends coming in and they're giving them free games. So find out why that is. Cards should be tied to a person if at all possible. And oftentimes those tech cards just say tech cards. But dig in. When you ask questions, that's a good indication to your staff that you're paying attention. And usually the conversation could end right there, just asking the question. Then they know better. Okay? So card consolidation is something that's necessary. Again, it's in your game reports. It's something you should look at every day. I give it a brief look to see if anything looks out of whack. What happens there is very common, and you should be able to take a card and combine other cards into it. You might have a family with a bunch of kids. They want to combine all their cards. That's fine, and you have to be able to do that. But it's also something that's ripe for abuse. Okay, so you need to restrict access to recycled cards so your staff can't get it and just add a bunch of whatever's on that to a card, and look at it and see why. In this example, the destination account you'll see is where they went to, and all of these cards were consolidated into that. Now, it was only $1.75 in cash, but there was almost 700 points. So why is that? It might be something you can't tell on this because it says tech key, can't tell, but it's yesterday, so you might be able to research it a little bit better. Again, often asking that question is enough to get people to stop. Another thing is to look at your bulk encode, review that every day. What that is you have birthday parties, things like group events, things like that. You're going to encode a whole bunch of cards, and that's okay. That's fine. You need to look at it and make sure that's what it is. In the bottom example here, you see it's a birthday party, and you know who did it. Okay, so you've got all the information you need there. Above it, you have a teller issue. Okay, it specifically says teller issue because that's what they typed in. You've got the employee's name that's in there, and it shows what they did. Now you can go back and investigate that, look at that teller, see what the problem is, talk to Joey, say, hey, what happened? And you want to look for trends in that. So this, again, control encoding access. It should only be a certain level of staff and up. Okay, look at any flags. Okay, and this, if you do that and you're asking the questions, it's going to prevent theft, and it's going to help you make sure that your tellers are working properly all the time. Okay. Game room summary at the bottom of most of your reports, and if it's not the way you like it, again, just export it and do it. I think it's important to look at a summary of the game room. And the summary would be all the different categories that are laid out. In this case, redemption, merchandisers, video, attraction, and so on. And it's a comparative within each of those categories. So what am I looking for here? I want to see where I have some opportunities. Okay, so for instance, merchandisers, they're only 8% of my games, but they're over 14% of my revenue. Okay, and the average revenue per game is only over $2,700. So it's a very high earner, okay, and my gross profit when I take the cost out is $2,100. So if I'm going to add a game, there's my opportunity to add a merchandiser or an attraction. It's less than 7% of my total games, 10% of my revenue, but look how much I'm earning from each of those. So this will help you in some of your purchasing decisions. And then on the other side of that coin, look at what's not performing. In this location, classics were almost 12% of the total games, but less than 1% of the total revenue. Why? Okay, why? Those things are hard to maintain, hard to keep. Now, it could be part of your brand, and you also have to consider, well, are those things dragging in tournaments, things like that, where people are eating and drinking? So it goes beyond just looking at what's on here. It's a place for you to start asking questions, but it's a good place to see when you're looking to buy equipment, what should you be buying, and where do you have to consider your next purchases. Okay, so that your game room summary is really important. Inventory is important. The card systems make it so much easier for you to do an inventory when you're scanning things and so on. This is an example of what you get out of that. The coupon value, everything is in there. It gives you the variances and so on. It's very labor intense to do an inventory. Card systems will help you. The reporting is great that comes out of them. But counting is about the only way you're going to get an accurate cost of goods, just like in the food and beverage world. I would do an inventory inventory weekly if you're a high volume game room. Yes, it's a lot of work. Monthly if you're not as high volume. Manual counting, you can streamline it by best practices and making sure that you have things labeled so that it's easy to count. The box is not open until you're ready to open them. But this is an example of an inventory for a monthly period. I got the sales, the beginning inventory, added, ending, so on. And again, just like with the cranes, don't overreact on 1 week, because you can see for the period here, it came in at 13%, but look at the fluctuations in there. This is how you stay on top of your game room. Take that inventory, take that time. It's important to do it. So the game rooms are more and more of a key component to your guest experience. They're extremely profitable, and sometimes we succeed in there in spite of ourselves. You can back off and still make a lot of money, but you're really not maximizing that revenue. Okay, so it's a great source of revenue, and it's a great source of profit. You got to devote the time and the resources there to maximize that. You have a ton of data with card systems, but you need to be able to look at that to find out where your opportunities are. Gerald? I'm sorry. You're Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
I get it all the time.
I know, you guys look
we're
so
used
much
to
the
it by
same.
now. Hey, I know we're going a little long here, but this is really important stuff. So I got a question that came to me while you were sitting here. This is a lot more involved than I thought. And you rattled off things: hit ratio, payout percentage, cost of goods, employee play card. I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't realize this. How do you recommend that they best stay on top of their game rooms when you got the rest of the center to handle too?
That can be a challenge. Really, you can't if you're operating that whole center. You can't. You need a key person. You need a champion. Okay? You need somebody that's going to dig into those things for you. Now, you as that leader should be able to stay on top of certain things with those reports that I mentioned, but then you may have to give it over to somebody to investigate it. Can you dig into this for me? So look at it, look at the big picture, see where your opportunities are, but have people in that game room that you can go to that will do the work for you and drill down in and see where the opportunities are. But there's no way you can operate a busy location and keep track of all these things in a game room. There's no way.
Well, that makes me feel better, because I was like, how are they going to get this done?
Yeah.
So thanks, John, for that great information.
You're welcome.
As we wrap up another edition of the Tuesday Morning Profit Break, remember, when your focus is on growing people, people will grow your business. We look forward to seeing you next week at 10:15 Eastern for another great episode of the Tuesday Morning Profit Break. If you have any questions about today's show or would like additional information, you can reach us at any time at education@bpaa.com. Also, you and your team can watch any of our previous episodes 24/7 by visiting bowlinguniversity.net. Until then, I'm Kelly Bednar. Do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. See you next week.